I love the fire, and I can just get lost in the fire, but too much fire, you'll burn down a forest. It's destructive. Fire can give life, can use it to heat up your meal, can use it to burn out the house. And so the key to being able to apply that fire constructively is in the balance.
Soul resonance with people that you're around. Tapping into the purpose of how can I help and support this person is always just gonna be number one priority. I can almost feel and see in my own head artistically what energy looks like leaving my body and coming into it. So that being said, it's such an intense, beautiful energy that's constantly coming out of you guys, but then also recirculating into me. So those are the types of relationships that I'm going to continue to nurture and spend the most time around.
Is somebody in the mind? Am I focused on what I can get or how things can be manipulated? Calibration to source, or it's manipulation? How calibrated am I? When I'm tapped into source, I'm more powerful and potent than 100,000 people because I know myself and I'm allowing my gifts of service to flow through. So spiritual purity is there. It's the deepest anchor. The roots go all the way to the core of the earth and then all the way up in the infinite, and it all anchors right here in the heart.
Whenever you look at somebody, even if there's the slightest part of you that wants to change anything about them, it awakens within them the subtlest level of paranoia. There's this interplay where we are simultaneously engaging with, but then creating the experience of the relationships that we are blessed enough to be able to experience in our lives. That is where true relationship actually happens.
It's the concept of forgiveness. What am I attached to historically that I'm pulling back emotionally into the present and causing new pain in my life? That's what suffering is. I'm choosing to keep experiencing the pain. The thing just happened, but my story around it, forgiveness is catching up to now.
Before facing these truths, you have to look at everything in your life that's taking you outside of yourself. Phones, distractions, sweets, sugar, all these things you're doing to distract yourself. These things are keeping you from making that choice towards the thing.
And so the antidote to fear is to choose. When you wake up to your power and you realize fear and love cannot occupy the same space. So you have the power to, when you are experiencing fear, you can change, you can choose different. You cannot simultaneously hold a positive and a negative thought. And so the best way to get rid of a negative thought is to pivot, is to think differently. The more that you choose different, the more that you awaken to your very power to choose.
All right, welcome to the Ascend podcast. I have an incredible episode lined up for you today. Oh my goodness, the one and only, the legend, Chris Cahill in the building. Woo!
We outside, look.
That's right. And the one and only Rio Bradshaw, our first repeat guest, so potent on this podcast that we had to just run it back. So I got the pleasure this morning of being introduced to Chris, and within a matter of milliseconds, there was instant soul resonance. And so this is sacred synergy right now. We've recorded like 5 podcasts just in preparation of setting up to do a podcast together. Today it's in the gym to get physically strong together, to strengthen that holy temple, to find that signature frequency and that alignment. So brothers, thank you so much for being here and taking part in this expansion of our core essence.
Well, brother. No, brother. It's been like what a day. What a trip, and it's funny. Like it's it's something different when like we spent the whole day trying to contain our conversation so that we could like the value that's just coming to the surface from like you said, resonant hearts, minds, and souls coming together, and what comes forth from that, what's activated in each of us. Just when that energy makes contact, it's like we've been trying to keep a lid on it so that we could save it for what we can share forth with all those who will tune into this in the time ahead. But it's a lot that can't be contained, so I'm excited for it to kind of pour out and flow through us, and and see what really to see what more the day has in store ahead, because it's been for the trip, it's been a journey thus far.
Man, it was so beautiful because today was already a great day. He came over and he's like, I know it's going to be a good day. And I just felt it too, but every day is a good day, but this is an especially good day. Because when you have brothers that actually resonate with your soul on this level where you're on the same path, and I was saying earlier, it's like me, Chris, and Tyler are not only on the same page, we're on the same page, we're on the same sentence and the same word. When you feel that and you have that, really tap into that. So all day we've just been having fun, and I am honored to be here. I know he's honored to be here. Thank you for having us, Tyler, on this amazing podcast. It is a blessing to be here with you, my brother.
Soul mutual.
So virtual. So virtual. He's full of her, bro. He's full of her. Literally, bro. That's crazy. That's crazy. So I think, like, our conversation has gone so many, like, it's gone so many different routes, and every single one of it has been so tantalizing. It's been just so exciting, right? And it's like we're at the edge of so many diving boards. It's like, which one are we going to take? So I think, like, just off the cuff, right off the top, one of the, like, the conversation was one of the points where we really started to get excited, where we were talking about solar systems. And we were talking about, like, how in everyone's life, like, there is, like, there's so many different moving parts, but at the center, there's like a sun, that kind of holds it all together, which it all revolves around. And I was talking with someone, very dear to me, and just in the process of coming to understand each other, they shared that at the center of their universe was relationship. And then you were talking, like, relationships, like human relationships. And then you express like that, like, just that, like, activated something in you. And so which triggered my curiosity, which I would love to kind of hear more about. Because the way I would answer that for me, and the way that I did answer that in that conversation, is at the center of my solar system, right, my universe, is purpose. The why of, like, why we're here. And ironically, I don't feel like what lies at the core of our universe is that much different. And so, and kind of listening to you more, I'm hungering to kind of understand, like, the heart behind, like, that conviction, that orientation towards life.
I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Love the linguistics. What? Well, bro, I mean, couldn't be a better time. And my purpose is to ignite even more passion inside myself and you.
Wow.
That's it. So, of course, what is my purpose? It's related to passion, presence, and play. All day.
Passion,
baby.
presence, and play.
Yeah, purpose, passion, and play all day, baby. So,
Day,
that's why relationship for me is everything. It's relationship to self. Am I coming at myself right now with a frustrated, defeated attitude, right? Am I actually, like, anchoring into stories of struggle, right? Or am I soul liberated? Am I dancing? Am I playful in my expression, in my connection? And my best barometer is how I'm relating with other humans.
Wow. You gotta go deeper.
That was great.
I mean, what to even say? It's okay, so it's born like a diamond, right? It's born out of pressure and being in a furnace and feeling what it's like to be on the outside of connection, right? So that's the polarity, the pendulums, as they swing, it causes bandwidth for the entire experience. And if I chose to live a muted life, I could live, the metaphor would be like a black and white TV, right? It's just like, there's no color, there's grayscale, it's cool, but, like, contrast that to IMAX, right? 4K, high fidelity, 16K, whatever it is. Let's go to the Sphere in Vegas now. And what's it like to have 123,000 different speakers pointing at different areas that can send signal that's unique? They can transfer language specifically to each seat, so people from different countries can actually hear natively what's happening. And that's the kind of life I want to live, high bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so the way to do that is to be emotionally vulnerable, right? It's to connect deeply on the heart and soul level, in my experience. And so many people have different paths, and some are more like monk-like, right? And want to go within. I think, Rio, you relate with that. You can fire yourself up within your lab, cooking up, co-create, and all of this, can channel through. And you have mediums that you're able to translate your soul's inscription into. And for me, relationship is the medium.
Man, relationship is the medium. That is beautiful, man. And we've talked so much about this today already, like sacred relationship. We talked about this in our podcast, sacred relationship. We were today having so much fun. There was multiple times we were looking over at each other. We're like, man, this is just like, it feels like it's like inner child fun that we're having right now.
Yes.
So like you're talking about with all of that clarity, all those different kind of colors and that glow, that dome. and you want your life to be like that. When you get around other people that have that zest for life, it increases it tenfold.
Yeah.
Always talking about how, the people that you're around can help you so much. In so many business senses, I was talking to him earlier, talking about how if you want to become a millionaire, you just hang around a millionaire. You hang around the people that are doing the things that you want to do, or at least in the same path as you.
Yeah.
So that is, I feel like, such a good way to get to what, you're talking about, is that middle of that, like your purpose and then people too. You have purpose and people, and then the people that you're with have the same purpose as you. It is a wrap.
It's crazy. The funniest thing about, like, it's funny when you talk about using your relationships as a barometer, because for me, like, I have been like, so you talked about human design. I told you the majority of my experience was with the pattern, right? And so I'm a Taurus sun, but an Aries moon. So it's like, literally, if you imagine a bull on fire, right? Exactly.
Here's the red king.
Right. Yeah. So it's like I only feel one emotion, and that's passion. Either I'm passionate or I'm not passionate. Like, it's just fire, and I love
Bro. Yes.
I love the fire. But so it's like part of like the journey of my life, and like the journey of like my soul in this experience right now is like I have to understand, because I love the fire and I can just get lost in the fire. But too much fire, you'll burn down a forest. It's destructive. Fire can give life. You can use it to heat up your meal. You can use it to burn out the house. And so so the key to being able to apply that fire constructively is in the balance. And so part of the journey of my life is understanding this balance, and it's not something that you can outline into like a system of thought, like we've talked about, but it's like you have to intuit, you have to connect with the sensation of it. I say that to say, because of that, like there's an aspect of my personality that can be a little bit like feisty, right? So Elena, whenever she's like, I've had a couple like Reiki experiences with her, and then she's like very like energy conscious. But she's like, whenever like if I get too close to you, it's like if I like tune into your energy, you kind of feel like a grill sometimes. Like you're just like kind of simmering, just like
Grill.
just like ready to, you feel me?
Yeah.
And what I've realized, and so sometimes, like, if the energy is not like circulating in my my system, like those points of tension will it'll manifest as like little flares that there's like a tss in a relationship, like they're like little sizzles like come out,
I know the feeling.
And what's crazy is I had been so familiarized with these patterns that I thought that's just the way that I am. And it's like, people will somebody who truly loves me will just accept me the way that I am. This is the way that I'm designed. Like, it's part of my makeup, like I'm a Taurus with an Aries moon or whatever. You feel me? Like I'm just, I'm gonna come with some spice. You feel me? I'm come with some sizzle. But what I've learned is because as I've seen we talked about that stubbornness a little bit, but as I've continued to progress along this path, and I've seen it even in the most subtle ways, even if I try to titrate it and express myself in ways that aren't overtly destructive with too much fire, you can still see the little bit of damage that it will cause to your little sister that you're trying to give insight to, or even your. And what I'm learning now is that one, it doesn't have to be that way. And a large part of your demeanor or your posture in any given moment is a direct reflection of your energetic state at any given moment. And so I've learned that it's so funny that you talk about how your relationships are kind of a reflection. Is how you kind of keep the pulse and where you are at in your process, your experience of becoming. I'm starting to kind of connect with that even just a smidge, as I'm starting to notice that whenever I'm present with myself, and when I'm actually checking in and I'm actually kind of feeling what's going on the inside, you can if I feel a knot and I breathe through it, and then it changes my engagements with people from that point, and the energy that I'm experiencing, the energetic state that I'm operating from at any given point, you can see the fruit that it bears in your relationship, because from a place of flow and harmony and alignment, when you engage with people, what I've experienced thus far has been healing and wholesomeness, and growth. Whereas from that point of when I'm not even conscious of the tension in my system, it that itself manifests in my relationship. So when my relationships are flowing smoothly, it almost reveals to me, it's like a reflection of, the harmony and the flow in my own being, and vice versa. And it's crazy hearing you act it ignited that, that epiphany that oh wow, like as within, so without. You feel me? Your relationship with yourself is reflected, in your relationship with others. So if you really want to see the pulse of what's going on, inside of your own being, just pay attention to what's going on with those that you're connected to. It's crazy.
1000%. Rio, what do you got to say to that?
Dude, I'm just in awe of what's happening right now. Like this is just such a beautiful thing to be able to sit here with y'all and talk about this stuff, because literally, like, the world needs this. It needs people to come together and talk about this stuff, man. So what I think about this is just like soul resonance with people that you're around. Like when you're around somebody, right? You, him, anybody, tapping into the purpose of how can I help and support this person is always just going to be like number one priority. So it's like whenever I'm around a person, my entire thought is like, how can I support this person and do the best I can to add energy to it? So when it comes to relationships, to me, it's like I can almost feel and see in my own head, like artistically, what an energy looks like leaving my body and coming into it. That's crazy. So that being said, around people like you, it's such an intense, beautiful energy that's constantly coming out of you guys, but then also recirculating into me. So those are the types of relationships that I'm going to continue to nurture and spend the most time around. I love so many different people, but as people that have different goals and dreams, and even just being here right now for us to do that, us to be around people like each other is just so important, man. So like, I love the fact that we started with this conversation on like relationships and stuff. It's great.
What's blowing me away? It's crazy. It's like the 4th of July inside here right now. It's crazy because what you're speaking to, right, is like principles. And so there's one of my all-time favorite books. I'm a big nonfiction guy, but my all-time favorite book is like The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I've read that book like 7 times. And I can't wait to read it again, type of thing. But one of the recurring themes throughout the book, he always talks about there's a language beyond words, right? And when I was reading it for the first time, I was like, I wonder what he's speaking to, right? And I would try to like philosophize about it, right? But at the end of the day, the essence is energy, right? The language of life is energy.
And it's the language of life is energy.
What's crazy is like the very thing that like you're speaking to is like in terms of like the experience that we've had, like this shared experience. And with like even us, we've talked about like a conversation is really only 10% of the words that you're actually using, but there's an interaction going on underneath the surface that is like, that's beneath the words, and it's almost like it's almost more real than the actual things being said.
Not almost, it's 100% more real. Intention,
right?
Is somebody in the mind? Am I focused on what I can get or how things can be manipulated? I went to Abraham Hicks workshop, and the whole theme was around calibration to source or its manipulation. How calibrated am I? Right? And when I'm tapped into source, I'm more powerful and potent than 100,000 people. Right? Because I know myself. And I'm allowing my gifts of service to flow through. So spiritual purity is there. It's the deepest anchor. The roots go all the way to the core of the earth and all the way up to whatever label that you want to give it, right? In the infinite, and it all anchors right here in the heart. And so heart position, to me, is the deciding factor, right? When you show up, I felt your heart just beaming. And so then it's like immediately our intellect's aligned, right? We have so many similar books, like people as mentors that we're leaning into, stories that we're weaving and co-creating together. It's wild. And so it was like immediately, like, don't move from Dallas. What are you doing?
Off the top, right? Why have we known each other 7 minutes? I think just that.
And it's like, yeah, bro, but just taste what's available. And in Lafayette, there's a whole different signature frequency. There's a whole different form of resonance. There's a whole different tribe that's forming. And so this does not mean that Dallas is disappearing, right? In my evolution, if I'm being honest, I need a revolution inside in order to really tap into what it is that my soul is designed to be here for.
Wow, man. I think, well, connecting to what you just said, and with what we, like at the very beginning of the conversation, we were talking about like relationship. And there's this thing that's like kind of like, it's like as the conversation is developing, it's like building momentum, right? And then so we're understanding, like as we're understanding relationship, we've come, relationship, like the way, like when you think about the way things relate, there is like, it's something in relation to another, And so then in that relationship is characterized, there's like a flow, there's like an exchange, and that's communication, like from everything as direct as the words you use to how you give someone a hug, to your facial expression, but what's crazy is that as I'm listening to you and we're talking, like it's like a deeper truth is starting to emerge, like as I'm engaging, in terms of like if you can take your relationship with people from something that you engage with in the mind to something that you experience like experientially, like how would our relationships change? And then how would the people that we have relationship with or we engage in relationship with, how would that change? If we started paying attention to what was actually going on under the surface rather than what our senses were, signaling to us, what is and then even then, in terms of then trying to understand how to manage relationships, then you go to universal principles, right?
Yes.
There's the giving and then there's the receiving. What is the balance of that? There's the when you go to a relationship with the intention to share rather than the intention to take, how does that change the dynamic? And Ram Dass, I was listening to a talk yesterday, ironically, on relationship, and he talks about whenever you look at somebody, and even if there's the slightest part of you that wants to change anything about them, it awakens within them the subtlest level of paranoia, that it manifests through the, and so it's like there's this interplay where we are simultaneously we're engaging with, but then creating the experience of the relationships that we are are blessed to be able to experience in our lives. And so if we can connect with the energy of them, what I'm gathering from everything that we're talking about, if we can relate to our relationships from a more energetic place, then it's almost like we might be able to experience a level of fullness that is that only engaging on the surface couldn't afford, and that is where true relationship actually happens, real relationship, and not just surface, just dancing on the surface, but real movement from the core, was where the real interaction is actually taking place, and so.
Okay, that was potent. That was potent, man. That really hit home right there, and that's, I feel like, one of the biggest things that can mess up any kind of relationship, not just romantic, but just any relationship. Period. Is what you just talked about, is not accepting someone for everything that they are.
Yes,
you have your own boundaries and what you will and will not accept, especially in a romantic relationship. But that being said, there is still this need for people to accept the person as they are completely and fully and not try to change them, because at the core level of that, I really feel like it's you not accepting yourself. So then you're seeing these mirrors of I'm going to change that in them and change that in them, because that's not right. Well, all you're saying is you're looking in a mirror saying, I don't like this about me, I don't like this about me, that needs to change. And that's non-acceptance of yourself, which causes all of this deep disease in your body and your soul, and this resonance just goes away because you're constantly looking at how you think things should be instead of how things actually are. And so that's if we talk about Joe Dispenza all the time. You guys are talking about him before this. The thing about Joe Dispenza and how he has you visualize these things, it's like you're visualizing this thing as it is. You're not trying to change who you are. You're visualizing what you want. And so I feel like the same thing with people. It's like looking at somebody and just seeing them for the greatness and who they are is exactly what it needs to be. Not just people, but the situation, and looking in the mirror and being happy with where you're at. Easier said than done, but I feel like it's one of the main things to do in a relationship and with yourself is to just accept that you are who you are. Yes, you're going to change, but to not judge people for and try to change them for being something that you don't want them to be.
That's soul medicine right there.
Soul medicine. That antidote coming
soul
out. That
medicine.
antidote coming out.
That's right. I mean, how does one get to that stage and phase in life? For each of you, what has been supportive in your path? For somebody that's sitting here and just resistant, Taurus, right? Resistant to life, like a raging bull in a china shop, that old school analogy. Just bucking around and breaking stuff and wishing everyone would just change, focused on all these external things. How does one move through and get into a more internalized and embodied state?
I think as far as from my experience thus far, I think giving yourself grace I also Ram Dass, because it was another book, like it was a series like where my awakening, really, like the awakening process really got activated, like this book, The Four Agreements, after the Four Agreements,
Ruiz.
and then there was a book, because really like love Steve Jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned that one of the books where he got tremendous inspiration for Apple from was a book called Be Here Now, also by Ram Dass, right?
Yes.
And in that book, he talks about you can't rip the skin off a snake. You feel me? And so like the awakening and then, honestly, you can't rip a tree out of the seed. You know, it's like there's an inevitable you know, there's like as soon as you plant it, there's like a natural process that it's like a natural like shedding of the layers, a natural emergence that like the knowing is already there, you know, and the process has already been like it's already been foreknown, and if my focus is if I can focus more so on like one, being conscious of the fact, okay, this process is happening, it's inevitable, and then just like you were talking about like allowing, you know, then that process like comes forth. And so what I found in my experience, it's a combination of I say it's a combination, but like the foundation of it is trust that creates the space for like the environment to be able to like release. And then in that release is the allowance that creates that allows the process that's been foreknown to flow through your experience. And so
Yeah, but Chris, what if I just don't trust anyone, anything? What if I don't trust myself? Then what?
Phenomenal question. That's like phenomenal. Where my mind immediately goes, part of listening to that is like the only thing that could hold you back from fear, from trust, is fear. You know, and then it sounds like a doorway to some very deep work into understanding what one, identifying these fears. But then the beautiful thing about the way that fear works is because fear and truth are not like synonymous. You feel me? Because like they say, like, you know, like perfect love casts out fear. And if we're gonna take a little bit of a stretch here and say love and truth are synonymous, then like perfect truth casts out fear. And so to what you were talking about, in terms of, in order to really be able to experience like the exchange of like love with another person, in order for it to be authentic, you must first love yourself. But I believe that the gateway to first like love, to really truly becoming like coming to love oneself, is to be able to look at oneself in truth. Because
Yeah.
and when you see yourself as the creator, like when that which designed you looks at you, what do they see? Because like what is more true than that which from which everything emerges? You know, that which actually comes forth from, that is truth. You know, and so going back to if love and truth are synonymous, you know. When you're looking at yourself in truth, the only thing that can come forth from that is perfect love. And then that flows from you, you know, through the relationships around you. But then to really you know, tie it back to your like that point about what if you don't trust? It's in that journey, in that authentic pursuit of truth, that will shine the light on the disillusionment that is buried within the system, that manifests itself as fear, that upon coming to the realization of the truth back of this fear that is trying to serve as a mask in front of it, when you can come to peer behind the mask and you see it for what it is, there's a release that happens, and you're no longer fooled. You're no longer deceived by this artificial fear, and from that can emerge like a deeper sense of connection to who you actually are, because you're not operating from a sense of restraint, in letting letting like what that actually is be like tied down by something that's not even real, by the illusion of fear itself.
Okay, that was.
This is why.
This is so wild. He literally came in and we were just gonna hang out and just chop on me and Chris for a second. I was like, we're gonna go to the gym with Tyler as well, and that's gonna be cool. And then this all happened through this. This is just amazing. I just put it out there. Like, these are gems from all of us, man. I'm just loving this. And so back to what you're talking about, what we're both talking about. Whenever you have a fear inside your body trying to get over it, it's the unwillingness not to face it that makes it worse. And so many times. And so back to your initial question, how would somebody deal with that? Is really, I feel like one of the first steps is to understanding that you have to face these fears. There's no way around it. You have to. It is work. It is work. It's like when you go to a doctor and you get a shot, you're gonna have to take that shot, right? At that point, you know what I mean? Especially being a kid or whatever, you don't have a choice. It's like that's gonna happen, and it's the fear that's coming up in you, and it's like you're trying to run away from it, but it's like it's gonna happen anyways. And so I feel like the universe has a way of repeating patterns or causing more disease in your body because it's trying to show you, hey, there's no other way around this fear than through it. So when it comes to the fear of relating with people and fear just about anything, people have to get in that like a cold plunge. The cold plunge is going to be cold. It's going to be cold, but you know what? It gets better. And the saying that we've talked about so many times that's perfect here is that, you know, it's like jumping into abyss, realizing it's a feather bed at the bottom.
Realizing it's a feather bed at the bottom.
I feel like that's, if you can really hold on to that, a couple concepts, like one, just being like, you're going to have to face the fear anyway. So you have to do it. So if you realize you have to do it, you're going to waste time not doing it. So one, that you got to realize you got to do it. Two is to realize that it's usually not as bad. It's pretty much always not as bad as you thought it was on the other side.
That's such an important question, man. You're snapping. No, you're snapping. I'm good.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I just really feel like that's just such a big thing that I missed out so much in my life. I was trying so hard to escape the things. And that's a big reason I moved to Hawaii for like 3 years, was because I was just repeating the same patterns. I couldn't get better. I kept trying to escape things. I was like, okay, I gotta face this. Now if I'm gonna face this, I may as well face on the beach. All right. So I went to Hawaii and just laid, right? And I went to Hawaii and lay on the beach and chilled. And the scary part about facing that fear too is when you're in a place like Hawaii, it's so beautiful, right? I was on the beach having all of these negative thoughts. I'm like, I'm mad on the beach. This is me.
Wow.
This is me. Okay. And so once I was able to dig into those fears and be like, what am I actually afraid of? I was really afraid of connection, just getting hurt. It's that inner fear of getting hurt as a child to really showing this love to people and not wanting to get hurt. So I feel like it's like that with yourself too. It's like as you're changing, you're just an inner child is like wanting to be safe. Yeah. And it's wanting to be held. And you're going through all these things, and it's like, someone hold me, you know? And so, but we're adults and we have to be in this world and we have to succeed, right? So we're wrapped up in this weird thing where we try to tell ourselves to just go around the thing, just do the thing, but you have to go right to it. Almost like a parent would sit down with you and talk to you. You have to be that to yourself and sit down and be like, no, we're gonna go through this. We're going to talk about it and we're going to see what the problem is. Just like your parent, hey, you're scared of what's under the bed. Let's go look under the bed. You are simultaneously...
Right, let's go look under the bed.
Exactly. You are simultaneously your own inner child and your own parent. So you have to hold your own hand and show yourself under the bed that there's actually no monster there.
Wow. And but like, so you, and we've got to get like your response to this, because this is such an important question. And like as we unpack this deeper, like I'm still like, okay, what is that underlying? And it almost like there's this idea of like beliefs, you know? And it's like you have to be willing to like almost step beside your beliefs and look at your beliefs and figure and identify them for what they are, and then hold your beliefs to the light of truth. And it's like this, and like in terms of the antidote to fear, because in perfect truth, like if perfect love, perfect truth casts out all fear, then it's literally like you have to, the first step to solving any problem is awareness. And then through awareness, like you can release that which is like, you know, that which might be a misconception holding you back from expressing yourself and your soul fully, the soul fully.
Soul hyphen fully.
Right.
Soul fully.
That's why we were. He came so quick.
I know, right?
So quick.
All right, so there's a few things.
Okay.
Number one is relaxation.
Okay.
That is huge. I'm realizing the way that you guys were describing the energy flowing in the body, it's when I'm tense, right? Which would be self-awareness, self-judgment is the only reason I wouldn't just be relaxed, right? And allowing whatever is. So then it brought me to another thing, which is the concept of forgiveness, right? What am I attached to historically that I'm pulling back emotionally into the present, right? And causing new pain in my life. That's what suffering is. I'm choosing to keep experiencing the pain. The thing just happened, but my story around it. And so a reframe on forgiveness that was really helpful, because the way I was taught forgiveness is it's this active thing. Go forgive this person. No. Forgiveness is catching up to now. Am I actually here and now? Is this moment the best moment or not?
Wow.
Am I living in a different moment than now? Because ultimately it's all this eternal now. Every single time, I don't know about you, but when I look in the future, wherever I am, there I am.
Yeah.
When I think about the past, it was there. But I'm constructing a narrative every single time. It's what am I anchoring to? What am I bringing to the surface? And why is that causing all this resistance? Why do I keep doing that? And it goes back to what you're saying. Am I giving myself the love that I wish that I had growing up? Right? Am I listening to the grandpa and grandma that lives inside of me and through me, that's got the wisdom of the ages? It's all, just relax. It's okay. Why are you being so serious? This is why play is so important, right? And Rio, you're masterful with how you architect these linear stories, and I'm more of a tangential person. And so us working together in synergy with Focus Fire Media and how we're actually, cultivating the sonic resonance, right? The soul's signature coming through. It's just been miraculous because I'm getting to see myself in an even more clear and I would say positive light. If we were to take duality to it, to me it feels positive. And what I mean by positive is it's fuel for the fire. So it's like the oxygen that's breathing into the soul. And so that's what happens when we have this sacred synergy, when we're able to see each other in truth, in trust. Trust is automagic with truth. Because we all feel it, right? Truth is objective.
Yeah.
And then my subjective perspective on all of that paints exactly how I'm going to think, feel, and behave.
I gotta share something because it's so wild. I gotta share an experience that goes along with that to show that with the gym. It's like the whole fear thing, man. It's like when you said, hey, I was like, hey, you want to come to the gym with me? You're like, let's do it. And you start coming 4 days a week with me. To get under a squat rack is not,
Right.
There can be fear there, especially when you don't work out, you know what I mean? And just, not only that, but just the outcome of everything. You went in there and you went right through the fear. Right through the fear. And not only that, man, but I would love to talk with you down about the whole Avanti thing because you had a business that was like your business, and you gracefully released that to go into your passions and dreams. But that's a scary thing in the same way that I just left serving and went all my chips in on my dreams and goals. You know how scary that was? But that's exactly the perfect example with both of us on that, on how it's a feather bed at the bottom. Because here's the thing. When I quit serving, I had a whole week. There was sporadic days where I was in fear. I was like, there's no more money coming in. What am I gonna do? I have to live off my art and this and that. But I knew it was resonant for me to quit, right? So that being said, I had to trust, and I also had to be my own parent and be like, it's gonna be okay. Grab my own hand. We're gonna be fine. You don't think you're gonna be okay? You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. And I was like, my inner child was so scared. There was days where I was in my bed just like fear and just straight up fear. So that, in essence, is the free fall to the feather bed. There's going to be a free fall, just like there's going to be a cold in the cold plunge. But that is a necessary part of it. So what happens is, like, you see these high performers like Tony Robbins and all these other people. What is happening is they are just experts at running into the fear. And so they know, they've done it hundreds of thousands of times. So they know, they built up that muscle to say, I know what's behind that fear. It's a feather bed. It's been a feather bed 100,000 times. Why wouldn't it be again? So they're professionals at just going to the fear. Cold plunge is still cold. Getting up on stage is still scary, but they just know how to do it because they've done it so many times. So it's a repetition of the trust through the fear that is going to cause you to evolve to a state that you cannot even imagine within such a short amount of time too.
100%. And shout out to Dan Sullivan. You were asking about something earlier. Fear, false evidence appearing real, right? And so what is it? Fear is pee in our pants. Courage is doing what we got to do with wet pants.
Hey, I like that.
Shout out to Dan Sullivan.
Wow, man, so much good stuff. So much good stuff, man. Man, it's like where do you there's so many different directions, man. It's like where do you take it? I think the biggest thing that's like kind of emerging from all of this, is this idea of like, you're talking about relax, you're talking about play, we're talking about but there's this element of and you were talking about alignment earlier, but like release and like and literally allowing like life to like express itself through you. And it's crazy like how all these themes kind of weave themselves together. Earlier we were talking about like the Tao, and then we were talking about kind of the grand, what is the grand conclusion of like yoga, you know, like yoga, like yogis, like yogic practitioners and things like that. And at the end of the day, there's a dance that's happening. Like, you know, there's a story that's being told with the expression of life. And when we talk about like the purpose of our lives and like the story of our lives, like we can either choose to like whenever we are out of alignment with like the flow of that expression, that's whenever we are pinched off from like, you know, like the fullness that we were created to experience. But then when we can learn how to like harmonize with like not only the rhythm of creation, but then like the meta narrative of like, you know, our soul's journey through this earth, then everything that was in store for us in it all is able to come forth. And there's this there's this theme, like in terms of like whatever like approaching fear, the first thing that had come off was like that first thing that had come up was this release. But then how does one release? And that is what like, so you activated the release. What you activated was the power of choice. And so when I had this realization once, I was sitting in a meditation, and and what had come to the surface is because there's that verse that everybody quotes, like you know, in Matthew, you know, when Jesus says like, you know, if you speak unto this mountain, you know, you shall say unto this mountain, like, you know, so shall you be removed, and it shall be cast into the sea. It's like basically like you can move mountains with your word. And he doesn't say this like if you read it directly, he's not speaking like with any like grandiosity, like it sounds like he's speaking plain. He's like, yeah, if y'all knew who you were, like if you knew the truth about the power that was the truth of what it means to be like, you know, a soul having a human experience, you would realize that what I'm saying is not some far out, you know, dramatic thing. And from that was this realization is like when you find your voice, you know, when you find your voice, then you can speak, you know, unto this mountain, and so shall it be cast into the sea. But in order to find your voice, you must first like find who you are. You must connect with that place, you know, like operating from that place. And from that place comes your true power. And one of the things that is unique, that is distinct to like the human experience, we have this discussion between predetermination, right? Like destiny, and then free will. What is the balance between the two? Is it one? Is it the other? That was a journey for me that of like over 4 years of trying to, can I consciously engage with creating my own reality, or is it all fixed? Am I just on a track that's all being played out? And I've realized the conclusion that I've converged on up to this point, it's an interplay of the two. It's a balance, you know? But with all that being said, I do believe that we have free will, and we have free will in its entirety. And in fact, it is in the authenticity or the integrity of the free will that we possess that our true power is made manifest. And so in the face of fear, what we have, just like you expressed with courage, is the decision, right? With wet pants to do what you need to do. That power is choice. When you realize, Tony Robbins, he talks about, there's not a morning he wakes up, he's like, oh, I cannot wait to get into that ice bath.
Right.
But every single day he's faced with that option. And every single day he makes that choice. And in the application of that choice, you are expressing your power. And so that's why when they talk about discipline as a form of self-love, because discipline is you applying that which you are, this is saying, establishing, this is what I want to do, and acting in accordance with that. You know, and versus like, because I mean, the dissonance that happens when you know it's best for you, but you choose apart from that. When you know, it's like self-destructive, and it leads us to cycles of like guilt and shame, you know, and perpetual self-destruction. But in this place, and so the antidote to fear is to choose. It's like we can go through these modalities and these methodologies, but when you wake up to your power and you realize fear and love cannot occupy the same space. And so you have the power to, when you were experiencing fear, you can change, you know, you can choose different. You can choose different. And I've experienced that in my own life when I've been overwhelmed with like thoughts that started, and it starts to get uncomfortable to the point where I was like, yo, if this keeps going, like it's going to be really uncomfortable. And then when you wake up, it's like, well, I can just choose different, you know? And then you can literally just, because you cannot simultaneously hold a positive and a negative thought. And so the best way to get rid of a negative thought is to pivot, you know, is to think differently, you know, to just turn your eyes, you know? And the more that you choose different, the more that you awaken to your very power to choose, and the more that you can act in accordance from that which you are really like after in life, which I believe is the true expression of you and what you're here for.
Hey, go for it, bro. Oh my goodness.
Dude, this is just amazing. Okay, so That is so, so true. And to be able to even face any of these things, the inevitable truth is you have to go inward. So before facing these truths, realizing you have to go inward, you have to look at everything in your life that's taking you outside of yourself. Phones, distractions, sweets, sugar, all these things you're doing to distract yourself. These things are keeping you from making that choice towards the thing. So that, I feel like, is one of the biggest things towards this whole mission of being able to do the things like cold plunges and make these choices, is you have to really zoom in on your life and say, what is taking me out of my inner, which is where all the answers are. And so many of these ancient texts and these books, what do they all say? You go inward. You meditate to go inward, to go inward. But when you on your phone, you are somewhere completely different. Outward. You're not present, you're outward. You're in this digital space that is draining you. And so many people get caught in these habits, and me included for so long in my life, because I was scared to make that choice, to do the thing that would get me through the fear, make me better. So me moving to why was the choice to do that, but I had to go inward to even find the answers on how, first off, who I was. Like you're talking, you have to know who you are. How are you gonna know who you are if you're constantly looking at everybody else? You're constantly outward looking at social media where everyone else is at.
Projections.
Projections, exactly. So that is one of the biggest steps to not only this, but a lot of other spiritual concepts as well, is you're gonna have to go inside, because that's where everything is, including the answers, period. So figuring out what those modalities are, meditation, breathwork, how to go inward, and how to get yourself out of your mind.
I don't want, because I know you're about to go crazy.
Yeah, you can see. I can see.
Please. Bro, he's about to just like...
We gotta have a sound effect on the track.
I know, right?
I even want you to did.
Bro, what's crazy? Like, I'm literally just throwing you the segue. I mean, it's funny because you just had a conversation directly connected to this, but that's one of the things when my conversations with Mr. Roger, where they started, he was beating me over the head with health. The foundation is health. To create the environment for your body's natural processes to take place, and to create not only the internal space in your gut, in your heart and things like that, but also in your mind for a lot of these deeper levels of understanding and connection to truth to bubble up to the surface, and for you to be able to be sensitive enough to them. Yeah.
That's all you.
Yeah, bro.
That's what you just said. This guy.
What I was just visualizing is every cell within the body actually having an antenna and being tuned into whatever it is that I'm consciously and other than consciously signaling to all of them. Does every cell individually think of itself as an individual? Do the cells in my liver, do they realize that they're a part of the liver, that this liver's a part of this body, and without each of those cells operating in high fidelity, right, on their purpose, with passion, which would be energy, right, and presence, right, being there, actively doing the thing that allows this whole play to unfold, right? So to what degree am I aware of we're all part of this same body? Even the human species, we're all one body. Who am I? I am some part of a body. I am somebody, right? And so feeling into that interconnectedness. And so if I'm not even signaling to my own cells to be whole, be a self, right? Be complete, giving the nutrition, giving the sun-charged water, right? Removing the bad stuff that's actually pulling and distracting the cell phone, right? That's McDonald's right there. That is McDonald's all day. And bringing it in, giving the health so that I can actually have the signaling, the strength, going in and conditioning my body, right? Going into gym. This is one of the biggest pieces of transformation in the last 4 months of my life that's ever taken place. Right? Because we've been going in there 4 days a week, and then we've actually been coming back and satiating the body with the nutrition that it needs, the sweet potatoes, the grass-fed meat, where they're actually running around, living life the way they're supposed to, automatically,
Automatically.
with the eggs, right? And then now bringing in the fruit into the diet, the melons that are actually satiating the body in the morning, the precursors. We're going to have Megan on soon to get deep into this regenerative health aspect. But it's that realization for me that I'm a part, that you are a part of me, I'm a part of you. So am I actually operating in sacred synergy? Am I offering my energy that's freely flowing through, or am I blocked to my own self-prison, my trap of this is it, this is all there is right here, I better be after my own needs exclusively, right?
Yeah. That I got some, dude. That was great. I got something to say about that right there. That is literally one of the biggest things of existence, especially in this realm, that you have to understand. That we were talking about this earlier. We're all one. That's why you need people, especially people in resonance, to 10x your growth and evolve. Because at the end of the day, so Chris says, he's like, hey, you mind if I have a little bit more coffee? I'm like, dude, whatever you want. Our food, my food is our food. That's the way I look at it. You're eating, I'm eating in essence, because we're all part of the same body, organism. So once you start to realize that, then everyone you look at, it's like, yeah, we might be attuned to a different frequency in a vessel, but we're all part of the same thing anyways. So when you start judging people, that's why I went back and said, you're just judging yourself anyways.
Yep.
So when you don't try to change anybody, back to one of our first points, then you're not trying to change yourself. You're allowing yourself to live and be. People aren't allowing themselves to live right now. And one of the reasons they're not allowing themselves to live right now is they're just scared. Because they don't know exactly, one, how to go inward and stuff like that. And so I'm glad that you asked that question, hey, how did people do that? Because to be able to even find these answers, you have to be at the point too. A lot of times when people get to the point where they're about to change, it's because they're getting broken again and again and again by these patterns. So if I would say if a person's at that point where they're getting broken by a pattern, like search, I ask and you shall find, like look for the answers. And when you start looking for answers, then the answers start to show up. And as I started looking for answers, I kept realizing all the answers again were in me. So it was just an interesting thing being on the beach and just sitting there and then trying, like, I would be on the beach sometimes and I would like have my phone with me and I would like get my phone and I'm like sitting there distracting myself, like just laying out in nature. So what I had to start doing was putting my phone in my car, but what was coming up while I was like laying there was like deep sadness. There was parts where I felt like I was going kind of crazy in my own head. And these are the parts that are part of the free fall. These are parts that, and it's gonna be different for everybody, but I do feel like everybody, this world is like, it has so much deep, intense beauty, but it also has deep pain. And both help you evolve. When you're in pain and you go through something, you raise up, you get higher, you learn something. When you're doing well, you learn something. So it's like this common thing that goes hand in hand. And then once you realize you're all just doing the same thing, it takes, because a lot of times I feel like people would think that, oh, my problems are so bad. And you know that people are having problems, but you're like, how could anyone even go through what I'm going through right now? This is so hard. And I don't even tell people some of the stuff I'm going through because how could they even understand how heavy this could possibly be? And in reality, we're all going through that. There's people in this world that are literally starving right now, that don't have food. So that being said, once you start to look at the whole of existence and the whole of the people around you and then be like, oh, we're all in support of each other. That is when, because in a body, when there's a cell that goes off by itself, it starts to die, becomes cancer in the body. So when somebody goes off and just ignores the whole, I feel like in essence, that's what's happening to them.
Oh, hold up. Wow. Keep going, bro. No, you gotta keep going. Yeah. That's crazy. So crazy, bro. Like out of purpose, you become like the only function you can serve outside of purpose is destruction. You know what I mean?
Oh, repeat that?
That's crazy. The only function you can serve outside of purpose is destruction. Wow, you talking about the rogue cell? That's crazy, bro. And it can shut down the whole system. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. I think, oh man, it's just so much, man. It's just so much, and I think, it's so funny because like I'm having this conversation with you guys, and just as a byproduct of the energy, I'm able to like experience the connection with these these all pervading these understandings that are just there, and it's like there's something about like as soon as you get going in the momentum, it's like the very things that like it's like all the answers they're like right in front of us, and all we're doing is like we're just moving our way up like ever so, and because I'm working through this and everything that we're talking about, my bad brother, but like everything that we're talking about with how does one conquer fear? These are the life questions. These are the big life questions because your purpose, the fulfillment on your purpose lies on the other side of your fear. You know, and like Jordan Peterson talks about like, you know, like the treasure, right? The treasure of your life lies on the other side of the dragon, right? And so then this question becomes, how does one like relate to fear? And we talk about in truth, like like truth is the antidote to like, you know, to deception, to all lies, you know? But what like, so as I'm going up this cascade, right, and we're gonna take this conversation up, like, you know, maybe like a notch or two, right? But I had this realization. So I'm going through this phase right now. So me, I'm really, and I've already shared this once, but big fan of, you know, our guy Esteban Trabajos. You know, you probably know him as Steve Jobs, right? This is Esteban. But so for me, and it's like the deeper you go into, because like Apple was a movement, like Apple was like literally like a revolution, more so than it was just a tech company, and what they stood for, and like what like it was a mission that they and technology and and products happened to be their medium from which they conveyed their message. And Steve Jobs, he himself, like he was an artist more than he was a technologist, and technology just so happened to be his medium, right? And so when you look at, so it was crazy when you were looking at the original Apple logos, right? The like the original Apple logo is Newton under a tree, right? And there's an apple, right? And it's like kind of like glowing. And you think about, oh, why would they have chosen that? And then you realize it was like the apple, like in that story, the apple hits Newton on the head and wakes him up to the entire operation, like the function of the universe, right? The laws of the universe, right? Like when you get into like calculus and like the laws of like all these, like it's like it was that apple that woke him up to, you know, now how does the universe function? And then as they kind of upgraded the logo, right, like through the years, like they had the option between, you know, what we have now, like, you know, it was with the rainbow phase, and there was the apple with the bite. And they went with the apple with the bite because in the Bible, right, in the Genesis story with like Adam and Eve, like that line goes, and they ate of the fruit, they bit into the fruit, and their eyes were opened, right? And so the whole mission, right, of Apple is like, it's like there's this undercurrent, right? There's like the people who get it, like when Steve Jobs came back in '97, he was seeing all these elite people that were, and he's like, why the heck are you still here? This company is failing. Like, you know, we're 90 days from bank. Why is he? And they would look at him and they would say, because I bleed every color. You know, there was a sense of connection. There was a sense of like purpose, like a cause that got them there in the first place, and it was what kept them there all the way through. And when you see how it all played out, their whole thing that they were driving towards in this breakthrough era of like personal computing was like the awakening of the masses through the availability of information. And so by getting a computer in everybody's pocket, you are opening them up to, because they say knowledge is power, and you're democratizing information to bring power to the people. And this is like the mission of like the underlying mission of Apple. And so the whole reason why they were trying to make personal computers as personal as possible was because they were trying to give everybody in the world access to the modern day Library of Alexandria. Because how are you going to wake up the world? You know, give them the access to the knowledge, right? You know, teach a man, give a man a fish to eat for a day, but teach a man to fish, and give him access to the information on how to fish, you know, and from of all species, right? And you awaken his full, like, you know, you give him access to his full potential. And so, like, with all of that, like, and so this idea of like, so the mission of Apple is to wake up the world, right? And in realizing that, like, there was this level of like appreciation, right? But then the question becomes, and this was actually on my drive here this morning, like as I'm thinking about, what are they waking the world up to? You know, what is the grand conclusion? And in Psalms 84, right, is where David writes it, right? But then in John chapter 10 is where Jesus quotes David's writing it, right? And what he says is, for it has been written, like, if only y'all knew, ye are gods, right? And like, what's crazy is like when you look at like this idea of like God, right? And like God, like one of the defining attributes is that God creates, like in the beginning, God created, right? And then if we are made in this image of God, when we are expressing ourselves in truth, it is characterized by like creation. You know, we are creating things, and what's crazy about this is like we talked about the language of life being energy, right? But like another way it can be said is like the language of the gods is energy. So the way that you speak to life and have it respond, because in that beginning story, right, you know, man was created with dominion over creation. By operating in this truth of knowing who you are as like, you know, the offspring, like a seed that emanates from the source from which all things create. And so you yourself have the power to speak to creation and respond. But what that awakens is like, you don't, like the language of, you don't speak to creation in English.
The way that I believe that we weave the tapestry of our co-creations together is through energy, which is language, right? That is the most direct means that I can actually utilize to fulfill on what it is that the energy transfer that I'm desiring to share and co-create, right, and connect with.
Can you wait? Can you connect like further, like because you were really like you were striking something like, you know, like I feel like it was a nerve that was like I think a key connecting point between energy and language, you know, and like how it is like because
language is the articulation of energy.
That's great.
And energy is truth.
You're bending energy with your mouth, like you're bending. That's crazy. Like
it's
you're like,
God spoke the heavens and the earth into existence.
That's crazy, yes, man.
That is our first creation center after the heart, which is the connection to everything, all that is, zero separation. I feel your body as mine. That's why we actually, when we hug, you know, we do heart hugs. We lean in on this side so our hearts actually beat together and they synchronize. Think about a baby, right? If a baby's not actually being held and hugged, they will die. Literally. We are just big babies.
Wow.
Yeah, to hold each other. And so to realize that I can leverage this language to connect with you at your heart, if I can send a sonic signature that way that resonates and lands, and I feel like I'm actually beaming of my purpose.
What's crazy is that, like, because I was thinking, my mind went immediately to like, oh, the application of language, and I was thinking about language as like simply like, you know, we were talking about bending energy with our mouths, and like, and so it's like through like mouth movements and like the vibration of our vocal cords, but that goes back to what we were talking about, like, you know, like maybe like 2/3 of the conversation ago, it's like the language of life is energy, and so then what the question becomes is, okay, when one comes to that conclusion, like what next? Like how does one learn like energies? You feel me? Like energy-nese. What would it be?
Energy. Yeah. Speaking the language of energy-nese.
Energy-nese. How does one speak energy-nese, man?
This is it. Man. Smile, play, enjoy, allow what flows through. The only reason we're able to have this conversation right now is because we feel safe with each other to be of full expression. Right?
Yes.
And so we're pushing each other by, this is what competition means, right? It's to conspire together. So when we were freestyling earlier, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can compete. It's like, no, we're in a collaboration right now when we're in sacred synergy. That's right. Right? So we're bringing each other's souls forward. Each one, you guys are activated. This is galactivation right here. It's remembering our heart and soul that we are all stars, right? That have been condensed and that there's infinite life, love, and energy that's flowing through each of us. And that vitality is only restricted by this little physical mind of mine. So when I actually turn this thing off, I can find flow, right? Find ease, find grace, find gratitude. And it's actually, it relaxes everything else. It's sending all these signals to the rest of the vessel. Hey, you're doing great. No judgment, right? We're releasing all of those constrictive things, right? And this is part of why we got to face our fears head on, because there is nothing that is actually able to kill us. We can take this body. Yep.
Yes.
Take it. But this soul right here, it knows that truthfully, it is forever. Period. And it's not a condition based on a certain formula that I speak into existence and must follow. This is just my perspective. You can have your own. Right? This is our divine truth. Right? We are soul infused. And I mean, there's physically a weight that leaves the body when somebody passes on. And I actually had the opportunity to hold my grandma, who I was very, very close with, literally as she took her very last breath. That was wild. Ram Dass, mentioned him a bunch. He sat with over 1,500 people as they transition. And he talks about it. It's just the core truth. This is the moment of truth. They're hiding nothing. They're giving everything that they got. Oh, I wish that I made one more business deal. Nope. They're talking about the hearts and the souls, regrets that they might have had, right? To instill that wisdom, pass it on to the next generation. And you know what? We have this digital sphere right now where it's becoming so apparent that we actually are an interconnected whole, right? The internet is our first version of a type 1 society that we're actually embodying here on this planet. And it's an interconnected brain, right? Where we have access to information. And so when we're seeing this rise in artificial intelligence, because each of the nodes, it doesn't have a gap there. It knows that it remembers everything. So one thing that's feeding to that source is feeding directly back. Well, that's the way it's always been with us. There's no way that AI is going to supersede, right? I call it digital intelligence, that binary intelligence. It just doesn't forget. And so we're witnessing what's always taken place inside of us as a soul essence. This is why the Akashic records, whatever kind of framing that you want, heaven, hell, God, always looking, always watching, keeping score. All of these are just realities of physics, right? So as above, so below, as within, so without. The way that I interact with you is causing a ripple effect that literally is changing the course of the entire body of consciousness, which ultimately to me is one thing. Right? Back to the loud more, and thanks, Ross. Shout out. Yeah, so when somebody says to me, you know, God, him, he, to me, that's just like a small paradigm of, what do you call it when it's a personification, right? How do I make this thing that's so full and complete, so whole and beyond what I am, holy, right? Whole, holy. It's so beyond what my physical mind can compute. How do I actually make sense of it? Well, I got to label it with something that I can actually attach to, but God can't be gendered by definition. There can't be a he. Is there a he that gives birth to anything? So if anything, we're going to go gender, wouldn't God be a female? Right? And, you know, that gender is the first split. So when it goes from oneness, it goes to duality. And one thing that I love that Bashar teaches in that process is it doesn't go from 1 to 2. It actually goes from 1 to 3 because there's always that balance point in between. There's that sacred neutral point of view. And within that dot, within that center scope, also is the sphere that encapsulates all the energy. So when I'm tapped into my divine truth, my soul, my heart, I can actually handle any of the pendulum swings in life. So my medicine recently has been how to actually be in my center in the midst of all sorts of pendulum swings that have been beyond what my sphere is able to contain.
Man, we're both like I think we're both like that too.
Oh man, I really, the beautiful thing about being in a human vessel that can actually weave this energy and this magic that's within us is that we have so many tools. So it's like when we have all these fears, we have all these things. Going outside in the sun is a massive tool. So many people just aren't used to doing it. You gotta sit out in the sun for 10 minutes, see how you feel. Right. Go out and sit in the park and take your shoes off for 10 minutes and see how you feel. So as an energetic being, where it's literally like the coolest thing you could ever be. It's like this intergalactic movie where we are souls defined into bodies, able to weave magic through these different skills and abilities. So that being said, realizing your power through going inward and through actually believing you have this magic starts to make you into this being that just can like literally weave magic and like this whole co-creation we have right now. We weave this right now.
Yes.
We weave this magic by not only seeing each other, but being present in the moment. Not saying like you asked him, you were like, hey, you want to do a podcast? This is your first podcast, right?
Right, well, yeah, it was, it's my, I would say it's my first podcast.
Okay. Bro, even if this was your 100th podcast,
It feels like
it feels like it's even past that.
That's crazy.
So that being said, that was your willingness to not, work from a fear state and be like, oh man, no, like, and you went right for it. And look where we're at now.
Look at it, man. This whole day.
This whole day,
man.
This whole day.
This whole day, man. I think, this is so much, man. This is so much. I'm like overwhelmed. With what you said, because you said a lot. I think one of the first things in terms of, so there's 2 books that come to mind that were like the references from which I'm like drawing from in terms of my response. Like to respond to the latter first, you were talking about the pendulum swing. There's this book, you might have heard of it, you know, I don't want to be jumping a bug show any heard, but the Kabbalah, right?
Oh,
yeah. But he talks about like the hermetic principles of the universe, and one of those principles is the law of like polarity, right? Or the law of rhythm, right? That's what I'm referencing. And it's like, it's inevitable. Like what goes up must come down, will come up again. It's like, it's the nature of life. But one of the things that it talks about is like true masters, like true ascended masters, like they transcend the, like, you know, the ups and downs of life. And it's like, just like whenever you're down, you tell yourself to think positive. You don't allow yourself to get pulled down because you understand that this isn't, you know, this isn't real. Like this isn't real. Like this is just a flare. Like, you know, this is like a flare of reality. It's the same whenever it goes up. And if you can if you can release attachment to the experience and relate to it instead of indulgence, like, or like, you know, rather than, you know, than like as like being affixed, then it's almost like the way that we relate to life. It allows it to kind of like pass through in a sense. The other big thing that you touched on when you talked about like the 1 to 3, and so I personally believe that God, God transcends gender altogether, right? And whenever we speak to God as like a he or a she, we're speaking to like attributes or natures, because one of this, like, what's ironic about like the physical is like the physical operates, it's in dyads. It's duality, you know, in the physical, you know, in this dimension, right? We have, you know, day and night, you know, we have up and down, we have left and right, north, south, east, west, you know, male, female, like, you know, like masculine, feminine, you know, it's like, it's that duality, hot, cold. And whenever you transcend, when you go past the physical, right, that's when things start to operate in triads. Like when you go from the third dimension to the fourth, right, time is past, present, and future. You feel me? Like even when you were talking about God and this idea of like the Trinity, you know, and then even when you like in space, you have behind, here, and in front. Like, you know, it's like it's things start to, you know, kind of like shift a little bit. And so this idea of like it's almost like the way I come to understand God is like it's God is singular, and but in that way, in everything of which, like, this is gonna be a word salad, like, so please, I'm about to have this is get y'all's ranch and balsamic ready. You feel me? Because I saw that clip and I was like, bro, in order to get this idea, you feel me? But like it's funny because I had all those words and then they dissipated, and so y'all were spared, right? Yeah, we're spared. But like essentially like the point that I'm driving towards is this idea that like God is one, and anything that we can use, like anything that actually is, like if God is, you can connect with that which God is through anything that actually is, you know, through the isness of anything that is a part of your experience. See, that's a little bit, you know, because it's like he pervades all things, and it's like they say in the East, from bindu to ojas, right, from small dot to big picture, right? You can see and they say in Ant-Man, right, you can see the universe in an atom. You feel me? And so like one of the things that I was thinking about even this morning, I was thinking about it while I was washing my hands at your sink. This idea of antimatter, right? And this idea of like that we're about to get really deep, so I'm gonna kind of, but this idea that what's ironic is that when you think about like, you know, positivity versus negative, you know, like there's like in goodness there's a conscious intention, but also in darkness there seems to be like an activeness. There seems to be like a life to like darkness, like it advances, you know, and I've been working through like, okay, there is consciousness, that which is, right? And then is there like an anti-consciousness? Like, is there like almost like an inversion? And then, like I said, we're getting a little far out. We're getting a little adventurous, right?
We're going.
Yeah. But the whole reason that I bring this up is because like when we talk about like Maya, right? And then when we talk about like this personification, like, you know, in a lot of like, you know, through traditions of like the devil, right? And they call the devil like the father of lies, right? And it's almost like if Maya is an illusion, it's like he's the one pulling the strings of this illusion, and there's like a conscious like intention that's at work to keep people at like enthralled with the smoke and the mirrors, right? And to get caught up with, like you're talking about too, like this dance of light, the duality, and like all these, and they miss, like, you know, like they miss that like that essential core. they miss the essential core that I believe that one can really only access. A little bit of adventure, we're gonna bring it back, like by releasing that which, like by releasing an attachment to our conceptions and those beliefs, you know, to come to converge on, you know, who God is through the experience of who He is, and what I believe as we ascend, as we actually converge on what that is, it's like all of these things that we come to describe Him as, like, you know, oh, He is this, she is that, you know, that is this, source is this. We get to connect with all how, like, the truth in all of these descriptions, but how the truth of that which she is above all of that. But we get to connect with an aspect of that which, you know, He is through these various, like I say modalities, but through these various perspectives or ways that we can relate to Him. Because if He's truly infinite, you know, He can be all things to all people in its entirety, in its completion, type of a thing.
Go ahead. Well, I'll say this. I'll say that for me, like, when I think of God, it just, at first I was trying to conceptualize what that meant, especially being in a religious household. I was like, what does God even mean? Because I'm going to this church right now, and I feel something. There's an energy here, you know, is that God? But then I also feel something else that feels completely off resonance for me. What is this? And so I started to have to dig deep, and I actually asked, because I was in the church where they would teach me to pray, and there was something to that. I was like, I feel something. I feel a connection to something, right? Is that God? Like, that's got to be God, right? But at the same time, it feels like I have to ask more questions.
Yeah.
So what I started to do was I started to study different religions, started to ask different questions within myself, and actually pray about these. I would use the prayer that I learned in the church to pray, what do I do here? And it was funny because the prayer used in the church was the one that showed me that there is God in everything, literally. You know, and I would hear the thing where it was like, oh, God's in a grain of sand. And I would just confuse my brain for so long until I started to experience moments of like, well, I was like, okay, well, what does the feeling of God feel like? And I would realize that when I'd be in the church and there'd be like, I'd be hugging my family and we'd be praying together. That was the love. That was God to me. I was feeling God there. When I would go to certain events or something like that, and I would really get deep in a conversation with somebody about suicide or something like that, and we would hug and they'd be crying their eyes out. Man, you just saved my life. Like, I really wanted to commit suicide.
Wow.
God was right there.
Yeah.
So then I started to see like, oh, God really is everywhere and everything. So if that's the case, then what do I do to continue to expand that relationship with everything that is? And it's to expand the relationship with myself. Because if I'm a fraction of Him, then that's the only thing that's going to do it. That's why when you get so far, when I get so far away from myself, that's when I feel less of God, because I'm not putting any of the intention and energy that is imbued through God into myself. So then I'm not seeing all of the other existence that's out there that is God and me. And so when people are falling to fear and essentially falling away from God, they're just falling away from themselves. That's all they're doing. So everything that we're talking about with these, you know, thank you so much. With me going outside in these modalities, all of these things are really just ways to get you closer to yourself, aka God. And so the more you understand yourself, the more you understand God. And that's when that started hitting me. That's when I really started into why things changed. I would be on the beach, I'd be laying out there. And then I would just start talking I would be like, all right, God, I just want to talk to you. I just want to say that I love you. And I remember thinking in my head, oh, wait, I should love me too. Like, I love God, but wait. Who's God? God's me, right? Wait, I need to love myself. And the whole thing started to change. Like, I had to keep rewiring my brain. I still do to this day. But, like, in essence, that is the most powerful thing you could be, is an essence of that source, God consciousness. Yeah. So the blessing to have that is literally an honor. So then you also realize that since it's all part of something, you talk about there being magic and darkness too, right? There being this like life to darkness. Part of the reason there's that life to darkness is because that's part of God too. We need it. So when we're sad and we're going through pain, we are in essence experiencing God as well.
All right, podcast over. Take it away. Drop the mic, right? That's crazy, bro. That's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It comes to me as the electrical metaphor, right? The sockets, they're just containing all this energy at all times, but we need both plugs to go in, the positive and the negative, to complete the circuit of energy, which is just sitting there bubbling up, waiting to be. Yes. And that's that source energy.
Exactly.
Wow, we tap into and just let it free. Up on the couch, you know what it be. Reunitis, grab the mic, you see.
Look.
Grab the Midas, you see. I'm with Chris Cahill on the podcast scene. I'm with Tyler Drake, the Dragon Brother. That's how we do it. Chris Cahill from Another Mother.
I don't know about that. What they know about that. So like, I think to like, I mean, wow, what an expansive conversation. And what's crazy, as many directions as that we've gone, there seems to be like a unity in it all. This idea of like, we took a venture there of like, okay, understanding God, different perspectives of God, and maybe there's a piece of each of these perspectives that reveals a part of the whole in each of these, in each of these approaches to understanding God. But then Rio takes it and is like, this journey of understanding God in tremendous ways is a journey of understanding yourself, which in tremendous ways is a journey of understanding God, and then operating full circle, like to close the loop in truth, right? And to operate in truth is to know God and to know thyself, right? To know thyself, because it would, like, Pythagoras, right? To know thyself is to know God, right? And Socrates, right? To know thyself is the beginning of wisdom, right? And what's crazy is that like, it's like the two are not disconnected, and that's what that reveals. The deeper you go into this journey, the more that you operate in truth, the more that you harmonize with life, and the more that you are living according to the original intention, right? And expressing yourself as that which you came here to reveal to the world around you. And it's crazy. It's like we're like dancing through these principles. It's like release, allow, and just be. You feel me? And it's like the one thing that gets in the way of us expressing that, expressing that fully is our own misconceptions, is our own, is the darkness, the darkness at work in our lives, which ironically you highlight is a very vehicle by which awakens us to the light for which it is. Y'all crazy, y'all crazy on me, y'all crazy, y'all crazy. Y'all went crazy, man.
I got nothing.
Look, that was perfect. But the timing was like right on the money too, bro. Yeah, we're like right at 5:09.
Yeah, that's just wow. Can you just give a shout out real quick to these two men right here, showing up, just heart forward, just beaming, allowing, trusting, flowing. I mean, I've got God bumps flowing like crazy.
This guy.
This is what we do, and so the sacred synergy is really pouring into each other. That's the message that I would like to close out this container with. Is we have all these principles, all these things that we're intellectually diving into, and what do we figure out, and then how do we move that energy and all of it, and what it really comes down to is it's either service to self or service to others. And the more that I align with service to others, the more divine my timeline. It feels so fine. It feels at the spine. Time. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yes, man.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. The only question that remains, right? And I think maybe
just one.
Stay tuned, right? It's like, and so now it's like we've connected with the what, right? And in terms of like we've started to like we've like uncovered it, right? And it's like the what. But then I think the most valuable thing that we could, afford, not only our lives, but then those that who would, who are like who this is portioned for, it would be the how, And it's like, and so it's like, how because then that becomes the journey of our life. Once we know that, okay, like it's seek and you shall find, right? And so we're in pursuit of truth, right? But then like how does one make that a way of being? How is that not just something that you do, but it becomes that which, that like how your life is like lived, it becomes life itself for you, Are we still going? Is it still all right? We're still going.
I keep going because that actually closes the loop.
Yeah.
So in my humble perspective, I feel that the how to that is once you realize that everything is an aspect of God, then you're living through Him, right? And then you also realize that you're part of this divine play. The way I like to look at things in video games and movies,
Okay.
because it just helps my brain conceptualize kind of like this whole thing we're in, because we're in like a movie. We're like moving, living beings, right? So the how, I feel like, is realizing the way that I look at life in this earth, at least this earth, it's like playing PlayStation. You put the disc in and this says Earth, and it just turned on with the PlayStation logo, right? Now, you talk about the whole path to, the end. It's like, so free will, you have free will, but then there's also, you were thinking, is there also free will, but then also everything destined and planned out, right? Think of a video game, right? What happens in a video game? You have options a lot of times. You can choose what to say, you can choose where to go first, but at the end of the day, you're gonna finish the game. It's up to you to choose how to finish the game. That's the paradox of having free will, but then also having destiny.
Wow.
So that being said, think about, I think the how on how to go about everything we just talked about is to realize, what character do I want to be in this beautiful divine game that we're playing here? In this divine play, in this grand act that we're playing, that is more than just a play. This is information to the rest of the universe. This is much more. But in essence, it's a divine act of play and understanding of ourselves. Once we know that, play the game.
Play the game.
And then when you see those sentences pop up on what to say or what to do or the areas you want to go, just like a video game, say the thing you want to say.
Right.
Do the thing you want to do.
Show up for it.
And show up for it and play the game as best as you can with as most resonance as you can, because it's going to be finished anyways. So that's my opinion on how to go about it.
Wow, that is well. Very well. Really well. All right, guys. This has been what's crazy is that this only feels like the beginning of our podcast. Yeah, I feel like I feel like we made it through the intro. Right.
Because it's plural, it's podcasts.
Podcast, bro. Because this is what's crazy is it doesn't even feel like we're actually we're creating it doesn't feel like we're creating something right now. It feels like we're experiencing something, and it just happens to be captured. And it's beautiful because what's happening, right? It's like we're capturing live growth. I'm sitting here, I'm engaging with you guys, and we're all these perspectives are coming together, and it's not just it doesn't even, because I'm actively working through it, and we're respond right here, right now, and it's live development, and it's a beautiful thing, because I won't leave this conversation the way that I came into it. I won't wake up tomorrow the same way I woke up today. You feel me? That's for sure. That is for sure. And it's just I think there's such a joy in being able to experience the blessing, right, of divine coordination, but then that much better. You put the two at the corner, you square it. When you realize that blessing that you got to partake in is one that you can now share, with those who lie ahead of you in the experience. So, thank you guys, and cheers to everything that's in store ahead.
Deep gratitude. Yes. This is the only thing that we have is real time. I'm living right here in this real time. And thank you for showing up, who you are, how you are. This has been magically transformational for me. Rio knows deeply. My internal landscape yesterday was not very good. And today, I cannot even believe how whole and full, my mana bar just expanded, right? It's getting bursting past the seams. And yeah, it's the spark of creativity. So just thank you. Thank you.
There.
I'd like to say one thing to both y'all. First off, Chris, thank you for doing this, man. The fact that you just did this on the way,
y'all, bro. What you mean? What you mean, bro? This is too much fun, bro. That's crazy. This is too much fun, man.
I just wanted to thank you, bro. I did it off camera too, but I just feel like it's just special to do it here as well. And I also want to thank you, bro, for just dude, we wouldn't be here without you, bro. We wouldn't be in this space. You have helped to create this, and these are gems that not only have evolved us as people here right now, but it has hopefully evolved the people watching it, through the screen too. So thank you, Tyler, so much for setting this up, man, and just really like really showing up with presence and love for this whole thing, bro.
Amen, amen, man, amen. You can't help but love this guy, man.
I know,
I really
right?
can't help but love this guy, man. Like I want to go start a I want to go like a compound. You feel me? We all just like
Working on it.
literally, bro. I just want
yeah.
spend my life, just spend my life just like really, doing what matters, with people of the same, in the same tribe. You sure? Yeah, as a tribe, right? That's craziness, man. Yeah, this is way too late. Who would have knew, bro, what the day had in store? But that's gotta be like, bro. And I'm not gonna take a venture, but like that's right there is like that's the antidote to suicide, bro. It's like you never know what the day has. You never know what tomorrow has in store. And your life could, and all it takes is a day for your entire life to change. All it takes is a moment, to unlock the next chapter of your whole experience here. And so when you hit that like that bottom point, like. Can you if you can turn it into a question, well, what can happen tomorrow? The only way to find out is to stay tuned.
Ooh, I love that. The only way up is to stay tuned. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, you guys. And then we get to circle back tonight, y'all.
That's right. Thank you, listener. You are one of the rare ones that made it all the way through. That's right, whole and complete. Soul fulfillment, soul alignment. Please leave a comment. Share this with one person that deeply resonates with this message. If we can impact one person, then that's how I know that my mission is complete. And guess what? My first person is me that I'm impacting right here, thanks to you guys. So the mission is already done. And now we share. We give our gifts.
Hallelujah.
We are artists. We must ship our art. Deep gratitude. Until the next time.
Until next time, y'all.